Yeah, hello and welcome back to ConWorxx. So, the second day of ConWorxx, we are continuing with our program, and I'm having the great pleasure having Nick Case, the wonderful Nick Case, as my guest, and he is the designer of Pilgrim. And Pilgrim will be the topic for the next 30 minutes. So, Nick, how are you?
I am very well, Uli. Looking forward to this.
Yeah,
Exciting.
so let's hope it will be exciting and my questions are not too stupid. But to put
Okay.
this into perspective here, Pilgrim is joint venture by Nick's company, Amusement, I think it's the title
Yep.
of that company, and Spielworks. So we are doing this game together. And Nick, tell us, what is Pilgrim? What is Pilgrim?
Um, Pilgrim's a game which drew first breath around 2017. I was a little disenchanted with some of the games I'd picked up at Essen, and sort of thought, what is it I want from a game?
Mm-hmm.
What do I enjoy playing? So there was a few things that cropped up. I like a game that isn't predictable from the start. I like a deep vein, random setup. So when
Mm-hmm.
you need to study the board before you can really start off.
Mm-hmm.
I hate it when people on Board Game Geek say, "Well, the first thing you got to do is go here and get this."
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do away with that. So what we've achieved with Pilgrim is, I believe, and I'm reliably told, 126 sextillion starting variables,
Mm-hmm.
which is there's a lovely statistic that if it takes 2 hours to play the game and you started to play at the dawn of time after the Big Bang,
Yeah.
apparently you would still be playing and you hadn't have played all of the variance of the setup. So I think we've cracked that one. Although someone did say to me, that means, Nick, you haven't play tested it properly. Because unless you've done all the setups, how do you know there isn't a broken one?" And it's a good point. It might be, but I think I'll be long dead before we get there. So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, if we know in 500 years from now there may be one setup that isn't working properly, then yeah,
You
it
write
is
that one off.
what it is. And
Exactly. Or I'll just put an addendum in the rules. Don't do this setup, and that'll be fine. Or someone else can, if they're still playing it in 26 sextillion years or something. Um, so what I had was this hit list of what I wanted from a game, and um, I liked the idea of a roundel, but I wanted it to be a variable rondel. So everything changes as far as that's concerned. Um, I I like duality in a game. I like, just because you've gone somewhere, you aren't necessarily doing one thing. You have an option to
Mhm.
do maybe one, two, three things. And Pilgrim has a wide range of options. I think the rules are relatively simple, but the options are incredibly wide, and you can be very flexible in what you do. If someone else is treading on your toes, then you can go and do something else, or tread on their toes a bit more.
Mhm.
Um, and the other thing that really yanks my chain in games, and I know people disagree and people like this, but
Mhm.
it's randomness.
Mhm.
I hate it when you play a game and then suddenly there's a turn of a card and the person who was dead last is now miles in the lead, or someone's been cut off at the ankles, and I can't bear that. So Pilgrim has perfect information.
Mhm.
The game does not change from the setup. There
Mhm.
is always the option to do something, albeit it might cost you a little bit, or you might have to approach it in a more circuitous route. But you have, there is no luck. If you have a very experienced player, all things being equal, they should beat an inexperienced player. But there is a way of handicapping that. If someone is
Mhm.
very good, then you can adjust how many acolytes they start with, or the setup is can be tweaked in a certain way. So that's basically the mechanics.
Mhm.
And I was heavily into the first prototype when I thought, well, maybe this game needs a theme.
Mhm.
And I was brought up in Kent,
Mhm.
not too far from Canterbury, and for whatever reason, I got the idea of a pilgrim travelling to Canterbury to basically go to the shrine of Thomas a Becket. I'm not sure how well this is is known outside of the UK, but he was a Christian martyr, and it became, certainly in the 14th century, the thing to do, that if you had basically committed a huge crime, or you wanted to prove how pious you were to your peers, that you went on a pilgrimage. And it didn't have to be to Canterbury. And certainly around Europe, there's the Camino Trail, which I think
Yes.
ends up in north of Portugal.
Yes.
And so the idea of pilgrimages is obviously universal, as wherever
Yes.
there's a religion. But there are all sorts of pilgrimages you could go on around the UK. And from that, we got the idea to have people or acolytes gathering in a central area and travelling off. And the design morphed a little bit. It took the emphasis away from the player being a pilgrim to suddenly thinking, well, hang on a minute, the pilgrims are very sort of two-dimensional in what they can do. Wouldn't it be much better if you were the abbot or the abbess
Yes.
of an abbey, and you could basically coordinate all the aspects of the abbey and try to prove yourself to be the most pious, because the cardinal is old and venerable and on the way out, and they're looking for a new cardinal. So suddenly the idea of pilgrimages and the life of an abbey sort of melded itself with the mechanics, and all of a sudden it's like, well, of course we can add this in, and we can add um, uh, giving alms to the poor, and we can have buildings and all these things. And suddenly it wasn't just a backdrop, it meshed in with the rules and contributed to the rules and added a whole dimension. So I think one of the really reassuring comments I've had from playtesters is that, yeah, this theme is not pasted on.
Yes.
This is absolutely woven into the fabric of the mechanics as well.
Yeah.
And it's in a nutshell, that is the overview of what Pilgrim's about. A luck-free 2-hour game for 1 to 4 people, and a competitive. It is, I say, a knife fight. It's a fist fight in a phone box. You can play nicely, you can be nice to each other and all that, or there is the opportunity to be very naughty and really pull the rug under from people's feet if you're that way inclined. It's an escalating game. The first game, you'll be like, oh, yeah, okay. And then after that, it's lovely to watch playtesters when there's a penny drop moment saying, oh, hang on, if I do this, and you go, yep, you can do that if you want to. And the fact that there are so many variables to the setup, there are 3 levels of buildings that you can construct or hire during the game. And in each game, there will only be 4 buildings of each level, but there are 8 to choose from. So it could well be that if you like, I don't know, harvesting grain, the building that lets you do that better may not be in this particular game, forcing you down another route. So for me, what I'm particularly pleased with is the options which are available, the fact that it is completely lock free, and the fact that there are so many different routes to approaching the game. And even after 50 plus play tests of what is nearly the finished game, or what was, I think it's pretty much finished now, there are still new tactics coming up. People are still surprising us in the way that they approach and win the game.
Yeah, I think this was a great overview because, and what was actually somewhat new to me is that it started, if I got this correctly, pretty much as an abstract game. But for me, really, you know this, Nick, I'm coming from theme, from topic. This is for me very important, and I love Pilgrim. Pilgrim is a great game, and I would never thought that abstract game first and then theme is pasted on. No, it's really interwoven. You feel like being in the 14th century, and it's this is what makes it, in my opinion, really very special. And mechanically, it is a Mancala style game, isn't it? Right?
Very much so. It's unashamedly stolen. The principal mechanism is from Mancala, but with quite a significant twist. With Mancala, you've got the little divots around the board, and you pick up the stones, and then you place a stone in each divot as you go around. And that is pretty much the turn mechanism of Pilgrim. You basically collect all of your acolytes either from the city, which is in the middle of the board, or from one of the 8 action or duty tiles around the outside, and then you move clockwise around the outside, dropping off an acolyte on each successive action as you go. There's one variation to this, to the Mancala setup, in as much as that if you start in the city, you can come out following a river going north or south. So there's 2 ways of approaching it. But also, when you reach the east and west points, rather than continuing clockwise, you can return back into the city to drop acolytes off.
Yes.
And the big change from Mancala is that you can take any action around the outside, and there are 8 of these, 8 duties, where you have an acolyte. So if you don't have an acolyte on a particular action, then you can't take that action. But if you do, the efficacy, the strength of that move will depend upon your relative number of acolytes you have there compared to everyone else.
Yes.
And it's all about, there are 3 situations. You either have the majority, where you have more. It can be you have 2 and someone else has 1. You could have 10, someone else has 9. As long as you have the majority, that will give you effectively 2 actions, 2 goes at that particular duty. If you have parity, if you have the same, you can do 1 action. And if you have a minority, you can still do 1, but it's going to cost you a coin.
Yeah.
So even then, that's one option. But if you've got no money, you've really not played particularly well, you can just take a tithe. All of the duties have a tithe allocated to them, which can give you a resource or money, or take your pick. And if you don't want to basically take an action, you can just take a tithe. So there's always something to do, but what I hope is it's brought in a significant twist to the basic Mancala mechanism, which gives it a lot more adrenaline than basic Mancala.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. So this is a wonderful addition to basic Mancala. But still, Mancala, in my opinion, is a very interesting mechanic, and it's not used. Maybe not used as often as it should be. So because it's wonderful. And here in the chat, I forgot to look. So it's Pete. He's welcoming you, Nick,
Hi,
and
Pete.
you know him from Laria, and Sebastian is saying also welcome Nick, and Pete is saying Mancala and your description of the mechanics, that sounds so intriguing. Yes, and this is what draws you to the game. And although this is not everything, because you could say, well, isn't this a tile or route laying game like an 18xx game, or how do you see this, Nick?
No, absolutely. And again, unashamedly, I'm an 18xx nut. I've got a ridiculous collection, and I've played too few of them. We're actually, oh, believe it or not, just reading up. We're playing that on Tuesday. But no, I love the whole idea of 18xx. The first time I played 1829, I was blown away. I love that idea of building a route and the flexibility of where to go. And I wanted to share some of that. I thought there was a place for it in this game. So the idea is that part of being the abbot or the abbess of your abbey is that you're trying to enhance Pilgrim's abilities to travel to far-flung pilgrimage sites. And they're around the outside of the map board. So as part of your actions, you get the resources, you get stones, and then you can build tiles. You build roads, paths, which snake across the map board and eventually, hopefully, reach a pilgrimage site. And each route is unique. You can't branch off and go to different ones. You must go to a focus pilgrimage site. And en route, you can introduce shrines. So if you build shrines along the route, suddenly that route becomes more valuable. And if it has a unique length as soon as it reaches a pilgrimage site, then the cardinals are very happy about that. The idea being that the cardinal wants a whole range of potential piety generating tasks for the sinner. So if you have a unique length of a route, then the cardinal will give you a favour which is worth more points at the end of the day. And likewise, the longer the route and the more shrines that you have along that route, then again, the more points that particular route will generate. Obversely, and again in line with the whole idea of actions having duality to them, you can decide to be a bit commercial about it and build a trade route. So that again will go from the city and go to a market port on the points of the compass, northeast, southwest. And when you do that, you allocate your acolytes to basically administer to that. And then each turn, you will get a free resource without having to take an action for it. So one of the key parts of the game is its worker placement. It's getting acolytes from the village and ordaining them to become proper acolytes in the abbey. They are then either sent off to special actions where they go to a vestry to increase your ability to pray or to become stonemasons, or you send them off into the city and they become part of the Mancala mechanism. And when they are used for certain activities like building roads or market trading and that sort of thing, they are dedicated to that activity. And as a result, the number of acolytes that you have in the city diminishes. So it's a constant need to ordain villagers, get them into the abbey, send them off to the city, just to make sure that you've got the right numbers to be able to get the majorities on the action through the Mancala mechanism.
Yeah.
So again, it's that making sure that the options are wide and varied. But going back to the 18xx type tile laying, yes, you are laying a route which can interfere with others' plans. But having said that, there are upgrade tiles where you can build bridges that cross other bridges or tunnels that go under rivers and that sort of thing. So that you're rarely completely boxed out of the picture, but it might be a little more awkward and need some more thought to get around the problem.
Yeah, yeah, I think this is a great addition also to the game because it's so much more than basic Mancala or amended Mancala in this game. And now it may sound to some people, oh wow, this must be an ultra complex game, probably 50 pages of rules. One thing, to play Pilgrim well or very well, yes, this will take some time. You
Yeah.
cannot expect to go to the game board and say, "Oh, this is my first game. I read the rules, and now I will play a great game." Highly unlikely, unless you are a super player. But the complexity of playing the game well is not within the rules. It's not 40 pages of rules. No, the rules booklet is pretty for a game of its complexity. It's really pretty short and brief. So the interactions, what to do at which point of the game, also looking what the other players are doing. This is also most important. This is not, also I don't want to mention this or as a bad thing, but it's not multiplayer solitaire, not for sure. So yes, you're doing your own actions, that's what you're doing, but still observe the others, because Nick mentioned earlier, if you're at a certain a tile and have majority of acolytes. This, of course, gives you double the number of actions. So you have to see what are they doing, what can be done. So there are so many different things to watch, but this is not rules complexity. This is some complexity in the game, as it should be. So it's very elegantly done, and I have to congratulate you, Nick, for
Thank you.
really something that is well done. And Sebastian is mentioning in the chat, I think the only game I played so far with a Mancala mechanism is Crusaders. They will be done. I think this is TMG, if I'm not mistaken. I've just looked at this game. I've never played this, but he's also saying Pilgrim sounds very interesting. What I've seen of Harald's art so far also looks very nice. And I can, Nick, you know this, of course, and you can't see it, but let me bring up for the viewers, the draft box art. So Pilgrim will
Okay.
be done in this style. So this is probably the box cover. Of course, logos have to be added, and Nick's name will, of course, removed. So
Game
no,
designed by Uli. Well done, Uli.
by somebody else. No, of course not. Of course, of course not. But you see, the style I think is very fitting to the age of the game, and it adds also to the flavor and to the theme and to the topic. So I think Harald has done a magnificent job
Oh,
here.
time for a shout out for Harold because he's done an absolutely fantastic job. He's obviously working through the artwork now, and he goes quiet for a week, and then suddenly there's this blitz of absolutely awesome artwork, and I'm sitting at my desk just grinning. It's like, wow, this is fantastic. It's just like having Christmas every week when Harold's new email arrives. He's done a fantastic job. Really excelled himself, I think. So
Yes.
all credit to Harold. If you're watching Harold, which you're probably not, well done.
Yeah, Harald is somewhat sick right now, so he
Oh,
probably is still in bed at this moment. And Harald, if you're seeing this right now or later, I hope you'll be back in form and recover very very
yeah,
soon.
drink less, Harold.
Harald is fortunately not a heavy drinker,
Oh, good job.
which is smart. But Nick, you mentioned this is a game, so to get back to the basics, gamers game, yes, for sure.
Yeah,
2 hours playing time, more or less, and you mentioned 1 to 4 players.
yeah.
So there is a
But
solo version, right? Isn't
yeah,
there? Isn't it?
that's the hot topic that you didn't slip that past you, Ellie. You saw that straight away. Yeah, the latest thing is certainly in the last month. A few people contacted me and said, how's the situation with a solo game? And so I thought, well, yeah, why not? Let's give it a go. So yes, and I've tested it. It took me forever to win. It's tricky. There are a number of ways of dealing with it. You can play a single game with 3 levels of difficulty. So obviously 1, 2, 3. If you play what I'm calling a campaign version, but it
Mm-hmm.
would only be playing 3 games in a row. You play the first game at the easiest level, second game at medium, third game at its highest level, and it's your aggregate score difference. So if you won by 10 points in the first 2 games and lost by 20 in the third game, then you would score 0.
Mm-hmm.
And your progression to become the cardinal is assessed on your overall aggregate score over the three games,
Mm-hmm.
and it's tricky.
Mm-hmm.
I would say whatever you do, don't launch straight into it. But it's one hell of a challenge, and in the end, I was completing a game in 48 to 50 minutes.
Yeah, which is
So I
which.
think that's a nice time for a solo game.
Yes, absolutely. And in my opinion, if a game doesn't have a solo mode and you cannot have a good solo mode, then better do not have a
Yeah,
solitaire. Then it's 2 to 4. But if it works, and Nick did a wonderful job here, then yes, we know this in the pandemic. More and more people are playing at home alone and are loving it. It's not for everyone, but if it can be added, yes. And hearing that you can play it in 50 minutes, that's also very nice. So I'm all for it, and I think it's another thing um, on the plus side for Pilgrim. So Nick, when are we releasing this game? So what's the plan?
I believe the artwork should be wrapped up before the end of this year by Harold. So it gives me an opportunity to print it all off, just to make sure it all lines up and everything's pretty as it should be and visible.
Yes.
I'm a real freak for um, something that really yanks my chain is games where there is information in tiny 6 point font miles away, and you're forever getting up and walking around the table. Can you pass me this and do that? And I think it's polite to be able to read the information on the board from where you're sitting,
Yeah.
and that's a key bête noire of mine, a bit of an OCD. So I think we've got that. I think we've achieved that. There's going to be a fabulous player aid, which again gives you access to everything individually. So no problems with sticky iconography or anything like that. Um, Basically pulling it together. I know that you're heavily involved with the manufacturer. So I think the plan is that we, at this stage, subject to change if we choose to,
Yeah.
is kickstart it quarter 2,
Yes.
and then that gives us ample time to get a release out to the backers before Essen 2022, and to have a presence at Essen if
Yeah.
there are any left.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully, this game, of course, is liked by lots of people. But this is the rough outline, and please understand that anything can happen, and nobody can right now foresee how production and shipping will work out in the next year. So, but if everything goes according to plan, then yes, we try to complete the graphics design by the end of this year. Can still make, of course, some small changes to it, bring it to Kickstarter, and hoping to have the game at Essen next year, hopefully a normal Essen at a gaming table, so that you can all enjoy it. And as I said, I think, Nick, you did a wonderful job, and there is confirmation here from Pete. He says, Nick always does a wonderful job. Yes,
He's
Pete.
such a crawler. Pete, how many beers do I owe you for that?
Yeah, I had to pay him quite a bit of money to saying this. No,
I
yeah,
think
he's right. He's right. And
Well, he's
there's
very kind.
and
I think it's worth mentioning as well, though. We had a quick chat before this kicked off. Um, we're both going to be at the Aerocon, assuming that it happens, and
yes,
there's going to be a copy there. So it'll be fabulous to have a little pre-launch, so to speak, just to see what the reaction is for the hardcore bunch that are there, and they are a hardcore bunch.
yes.
And I think if they don't like it, then we should just pack up and go home early.
Yeah, then we immediately fly back
Yeah,
to the UK or
respective
to
homes. Yeah.
Germany. But yes, that is a plan. If Laria is happening in March of next year in Portugal, we want to have the game over there and show it to people, and have players who have never seen it before play the game and see their reactions to it. And there is hello Chris, by the way, Chris from the UK saying sounds good. Um, and Pete is saying, I'm not sure if this is directed to you. It is. Haha, I don't know where the cake slice came from, but are tasty. So,
Well, if I could be the first person to swear on your show today, Ollie, fuck
yes.
off me.
Swearing actually is almost mandatory here, so
Bloody good job.
that's good. And
Yeah,
Chris is
Pete.
saying, I really hope LariaCon is happening. Yes, it would be wonderful. So these are the plans for Pilgrim. As I said, as we said, it will be joint venture between our two companies. Artwork is pretty much progressing, has progressed well so far, and is pretty advanced. And right now we are on track, isn't it? So yeah,
Yeah, I think I'll probably regret this, but Pilgrim is available in a limited respect, not for public access, on Tabletopia.
yes,
So if there is anyone who would like a little go, it's not impossible to get hold of me or get hold of Uli, and he'll push you in my direction.
yes.
And we'll set something up. And I'm more than happy to run through a game just to show you what's going on. I've tried to incorporate the new artwork as Harold's been producing it. And Tabletopia, you can get your head around it in about 10 minutes once it's all set up. So if you'd like a go, get in touch and we'll sort something out.
Yes, please do so. That would be very helpful, and we love this. And Sebastian, before we close this here, Sebastian is asking, is LariaCon an event normal people can attend, or is it only designers, publishers? No, everybody can attend it. It's, of course, mainly Portuguese people, but there is a really large group of people from all over the world, mainly Europe, and it's pretty easy to reach it. You fly into Lisbon or to Porto, and then go to the convention, which is directly at the Atlantic Ocean. So it's a wonderful thing. If in normal time, non-pandemic times, if I could only attend a single event a year, it would be Lariacon.
Yeah.
So I would say this is my favorite place to be, and it's the
And if
whole
I could jump
atmosphere.
in, my reservation the first time I went, which was about 5 6 years ago, was that I knew it was mainly Portuguese. Would they speak English? Would I be stuck in a corner? I was bowled over at how everyone speaks English, perfect English. It's embarrassing, really. Um, and they bend over backwards
Yes.
to be as inclusive as they possibly can, to make sure that you've got a game, to make sure you're happy, to find out what you're doing, to make sure you're not sitting on your own at lunch and meals and the rest of it. They are just the most hospitable, lovely people, as well as it being an awesome venue. So definitely, just turn up and play. You don't need to be a weirdo designer.
No, right. So Sebastian, yes, it would be a great place to be. And if you want to follow them, there is a a Twitter. They have a Twitter account. I think
And a
it's
Facebook
called
account.
Lariacon, and so you stay in touch, and they will put up information pretty soon, I guess, to if it's happening, when it's happening. I think right now it looks not too bad, but you never know what will happen in the next couple of weeks. So, Nick, wonderful having you here, and
Thanks for
we,
inviting
we
me.
stay in touch anyway. Thank you to all viewers, and we restart in 12 minutes with Schrille Stille, new edition with Peter Wichmann. He will be my guest. Again, I'm repeating this. You need to reconnect to the stream because I'm too stupid to handle the pause action here. So you need to reconnect. But I would love to see you back at 11 a.m. CET. So we'll see. And thanks a lot. Thank you, Nick, by the way.
Bye.
Bye bye. Let me finish this.